Hey, it's Jeff Zito, and thanks for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. What would happen if some of these celebrities didn't get their big break? They might be just working some ordinary 9-to-5 job like you and me. Debra Rupp played the role of Kitty Foreman on That 70s Show, and now reprising that role on That 90s Show, which is now in its second season on Netflix. Debra had a little bit of a different path than a lot of other actresses. We'll find out about that path. What she did before she was an actress. What was her first job? Debra Rupp from That 70s Show is my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Hi, Debra How are you?
I'm good. Did you get out of traffic?
I did, and thanks for, today has been such an incredibly terrible day so far, and
oh, I am so sorry.
But I'm so glad though that I got to keep our appointment here.
Thank you.
And thank you for being so flexible and accommodating. Thank you so much.
I completely understand the traffic problem.
Well,
I get it.
Well, I'm in Florida, so what traffic problem do you have? Is it Massachusetts or Los Angeles?
I'm just remembering Los Angeles.
Oh boy, yeah, that's a disaster. Now, do you split time between home, Massachusetts, and L.A.?
Well, yeah, right now I do, yeah.
What do you like better? Do you like being on the East Coast or West Coast?
You know, I was born in California, but I was basically raised in New England, in Massachusetts, and I think that I'm a New England person.
Yeah.
I like weather. I like snow and rain, and I like weather.
You like seasons, Christmas, snow. I gotcha. Well, you've got such an interesting story, I think, because, just kind of researching you a little bit and want to talk about That 90s Show, of course, which is so fun for me when I saw that it was coming back. I was just so excited, and it is great to see a lot of the guys. I know not everybody's back, but it's so great to see everybody back for the most part. Tell me a little bit about how you got started. Were your parents interested in acting? What did they do for work?
Well, my parents were at heart creative people, but 1950s, my dad had to pay the bills. My mom was a homemaker, and but I know that my dad always wanted to write and wanted to act, and my mother was dramatic. Let's just say that. And so it was there, but they did not pursue their dreams.
They weren't in the business. Okay.
And then for me, I was doing it, and I was a little headstrong. I was a good girl, but I was a little headstrong. Headstrong. And so when I was going into it, they referred to it as a hobby, and they were very worried about me.
Sure.
They were very concerned. And my mother, for a long, long period of time, wanted me to get my CPA and be an accountant.
Okay.
And I can't even tell you how that would have worked out, really.
So mom and dad supportive, but not all in on the dream, maybe wanted you to have that backup plan. And
well, I feel like supportive is actually
is that a stretch?
Probably not right.
Okay.
They were, if I had any success, I was a very late bloomer too, which did not help matters.
Right.
So I had to promise my mother when I went to New York, which I went right out of college, I had to promise her that I would not be a waitress because she thought I would be enamored of the money to make as a waitress, and I would never leave it. So I had to promise her that. So that was very limiting for me, trying to be an actor. So I had to take full-time jobs as like a bookkeeper. I did bookkeeping for a very long time. That was my mother's job, and she taught me how to basically turn over anything, and there were directions, and just to follow the directions, and that's what I did.
So, Debra Jo, what was your first job, your very first job?
My first paying job, well, acting-wise, I got some commercials, but my first acting paying job was All My Children.
Okay.
And I played a topless waitress.
I remember this.
I looked 12, honestly, because, I have that very full face.
Right.
So I looked like I was 12 years old. And, I would come out on the set, and they would go, no, we need to age her. We need to do something. I really looked like I was 12. And that was my first job.
So that was your first acting job or your first job, period? What was your very first job? Was it acting, or were you a bookkeeper or a waitress?
To pay rent?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bookkeeping.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and I did it for a long time. I even got to Broadway, and I was doing it.
Really?
Yeah, because I was nervous. I was very nervous that I wouldn't be able to pay the bills. And then finally, after Broadway, I went, this is just ridiculous. You want to at least make enough money to buy a house or something. So I packed everything up in 1990, and I went to L.A. And I was 40 years old, and I decided that I would be an actress in Hollywood at 40.
That's so crazy, because what that does, though, Debra Jo, it gives a lot of people listening out there hope, and it sounds so cliche about never giving up on your dream. I mean, you are proof. You are proof that at 40 years old, you said, I want to be a professional actress. Now, I've seen you before 1990 doing stuff. So was it just kind of like landing a gig here and landing a gig there, having a regular bookkeeping job, and that was your life before 1990?
No, my life was having a bookkeeping job and taking acting classes.
Okay.
Because at least I could act, so, and the encouragement that I got in acting classes kept me in the game.
Right.
And I would get I'd get extra work, or I'd get, I would get some showcases that paid nothing in New York, but I would get to do a show. And I was really a late bloomer. It wasn't until I was 36 years old and I kind of got on the map.
Right.
I did a show that was written for Terry Garr, and she wasn't available. And my acting teacher said, use Debra Jo for this workshop, and then I ended up getting it. And I opened it, and that was it. And then everything opened up for me.
So
I was 36.
That was your big break, you would say. That was your big moment and put you kind of on the map. And what specifically was that role? It
was a show called A Girl's Guide to Chaos, written by Cynthia Heimel. She was writing for the Village Voice at the time, and in New York. And she had a series of essays and things, and she put them together and kind of created this play. And we ran for quite a while, and I got a Hirschfeld from it. It just like everything opened up.
Wow.
It was really nice.
I'm looking at your acting credits. It's so funny because I just saw Big this past weekend. Yeah. It was on TV, and I know that was one of your first film roles. But as I'm looking down, I just wanted to mention this to you because I thought it was funny. You played the role of Dr. Ruth Westheimer about 10 or 15 years ago, and I just want you to know, Debra Jo, that was my very first time I was on the radio. I was probably about 6 years old, and my older brother and sister thought it would be funny for me to call into the Dr. Ruth show to say that I had a problem with my girlfriend, which I made it on the air, but was disconnected very, very quickly after that. But that began my radio career maybe 45 years ago.
Wow.
I thought it was funny that you actually played Dr. Ruth Westheimer. That was on stage, correct?
Yes, it was. It was written. I worked on it when it was being written, and I did it in Massachusetts. I did it in Connecticut, and I ended up with it in New York. And it was such an honor to play her. I knew nothing. I knew what you knew.
Right.
I knew her as a kind of a radio, and then I think she also had like a talk show at one time as a sex therapist.
Yes.
And kind of a funny person, a little short person with an accent who talked about sex. That's all I knew about her. And when I got the call to help develop this, I found out that she was a sniper in the Israeli army, that she was part of the Kinder transport with the Nazis. I just was like, oh, my God.
Wow.
Oh, my God. She's quite a remarkable person.
Yeah.
And I still have dinner with her.
Really?
Yes, I adore her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that 70s show and then morphing into what you're doing now. It's also a funny little tidbit about me. I'm sure I'm interviewing you. I don't know why I'm interjecting so much about myself.
That's okay. No, I like that.
I grew up in Warren/Watchung, New Jersey, and I was neighbors with Laura Prepon. She did not know that at the time, and I don't think she was a little bit younger than I was, but I know where she lived, and we would have went to the same high school if I would have stayed there. But we are from the same town in New Jersey. So another interesting tidbit. Tell me a little bit about when you got the gig for that 70s show, and if you ever thought that it would turn into what it did turn into.
No, I did not think it was that funny. I didn't even know it was the 70s. I didn't even know when I auditioned. I don't know. Somehow I missed it. I just knew who the mother was.
Right.
When I read it, I knew the mother was my mother on a good day. So, kind of a little worried and a little nervous and kind of cheerful when she chose to be. I just knew who the mother was, and that's all that I worried about. And when I got on the set and saw the furniture and it was all avocado green, I went, oh, wait a minute. And then I saw the costumes, and then I went, oh, okay, here we are.
Right.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I mean...
And I don't even think I thought it was that funny. I don't know. I was just shocked. I think I was just shocked that we stayed on the air for the first 2 seasons. And our show was one that you either loved or you hated. But by the time we got to the 3rd season, the kids were a little older. They had experience behind them. And we all started to gel together. And the writing was really good and very inventive. And we all just sort of came together. And that's when I went, oh, we have something. I don't care if people don't like it. We have something very special here. And then I think that our audience really grew in the reruns.
I agree. The audience not only grew, but grew so much that they had to have a sequel. And when you have a sequel, it's usually, I would say, not as successful as the original. This not the case. That 90s show, 2nd season, is on Netflix. And I believe it premieres right now. Debra Jo Rupp, what a great story. Her parents not in showbiz. Her mother actually taught her to become a bookkeeper because she thought that was going to be a good, steady gig for Debra Jo. And it was a pretty good, steady gig because that was her very first job and continued to be her job as she was acting. She said her very first acting job was the role of a topless dancer on All My Children. And for some weird reason, I can remember that. That was in the early 80s. And of course, my mom was definitely watching all those soaps. But Debra Jo said she was a late bloomer. Her parents not very supportive of her acting dream. They kind of referred to it as a hobby. And at the age of 40 years old, Debra Jo packed up her car, moved to Hollywood to become an actor, and of course, lands the role of Kitty Foreman from that 70s show, which really made her a household name, and continues with the role of Kitty Foreman with that 90s show. Again, right now on Netflix. Great story. Debra Jo Rupp actually missed our interview time early this morning because I got caught up in traffic and was very understanding and actually made time for me a little later on this morning. So I definitely thank you, Debra Jo, for accommodating me. I know it kind of sounds a little cliche, but it's one of those stories where you can say never give up on your dream. It's exactly that. She didn't really do it until she was 40 years old, made the decision to move to Hollywood to be an actress, because before that, she's just doing a little stage work here and there, an acting gig here and there, but she's a bookkeeper. And then 40 years old, she made the move, and there you go. So thank you so much for checking out the Celebrity Jobber podcast. Stream us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. All our past episodes are up on celebrityjobber.com. Follow us on Instagram, Celebrity Jobber Podcast, and the YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/the@Celebrity Jobber. Everyone's got a different path to stardom, and everyone had a first job. Debra Jo was 36 years old when she got her big break. Never give up. I know it sounds stupid, but boy, it's so true, man. Once again, thank you for checking out this episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Until next week, I'm Jeff Zito.